Mandalorian Season 3 is definitely beginning to lose me and alongside a lot of other fans of the Star Wars series. And understand, gents, I'm definitely late to the party in terms of The Mandalorian. I was personally facing just some issues and thought, you know what, let me sit back and relax. Let me finally check out this show that's getting so much critical acclaim. And when I had a moment, I would definitely hop on, watch a couple episodes, and then eventually I got hooked onto the show. I binged through Season 1 and binged through Season 2, thoroughly entertained with the experience. This type of show brought me right back to my childhood. I'm the type of person who grew up watching shows such as The A-Team and especially MacGyver and Knight Rider. Those two shows are truly possibly the epitome of doing a episodic series very, very well. And by episodic, I mean a show that has an overarching storyline, but its main focus is having an episodic storyline by having an individual story and having new characters almost every single episode and having a couple of new characters come in here and there. Now, if I were to describe The Mandalorian, what we've been given so far, it's definitely a myriad of interesting side quests that the Mandalorian has gone on throughout his journey since the very beginning. That was the precedent that was set, and usually there wasn't any particularly overarching storyline other than finding Grogu's people and taking him home. Now, they've chosen to go a different direction and bring the Mandalorian and Grogu back together. Unfortunately, so far, since Grogu's return, there hasn't been any significant change other than him using a few new Force abilities in terms of their relationship. Now, the reason I'm even making this video today is to kind of show out the frailties of The Mandalorian in recent times. I recently watched episode 6 and as many other people point out, the show definitely seems to be directionless. We don't know where the story is going and why it's going in this particular way. This season is probably the least eventful out of all of them, and episode 6 is definitely a testament to that. Now, I'll be honest with you, the cameos of Jack Black and Lizzo personally kind of took me out of the experience and kind of hindered my immersion, because even though we know that Jack Black is a good actor and Lizzo, she's okay. She did her job. She did what she came here there to do. Unfortunately, because of their performances or perhaps the way they acted, their performances took me out of the experience. And I'll be honest, the side quest that the Mandalore, Jindarin and Bo-Katan went on simply took me out of the experience and I wasn't really that engaged. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not necessarily somewhat of a Star Wars fan or anything like that. I haven't watched any of the, proper Star Wars movies, so I'm definitely going in more so blind, and I'm looking at The Mandalorian more as an independent form of media entertainment. The only other Star Wars, things that I've interacted with is some of the Star Wars Lego games. I've completed Jedi Fallen Order, which I had a decent time with, and I've watched some of the Clone Wars cartoons back in the day, so I have just a basic knowledge of the Star Wars universe, but from watching these cartoons and the games, I have a basic understanding of how the world works in general. But that's not what we're talking about particularly today. We're talking about The Mandalorian, and in terms of an individual series, it's definitely losing its touch, and I am definitely no longer excited as much to watch a brand new episode of The Mandalorian as I was before. I was very hyped to watch a brand new episode. I knew that I was going to get something of very high quality no matter what the Mandalore and Grogu were going to do. What I find strange and interesting is that I think that possibly the best content that could have been shuffled right here into Season 3 was unfortunately already used up in Boba Fett's Season 1 towards the end. Ever since the story in Boba Fett shifted over to The Mandalore, all that good content genuinely should have been in Season 3. Now, I was thinking, okay, they're shuffling and pushing this content into the book of Boba Fett. Clearly, Jon Favreau has a huge amount of content that he just can't fit into the 8-episode season of The Mandalorian. So I was assuming, I'm in for some heat. This is going to be a lit season. He has the Darksaber. He's learning to control the Darksaber. Let's see how it goes. In Season 3, he simply passes the Darksaber over to Bo-Katan. Now, there are a number of issues with this. I don't mind that he's given the Darksaber over to her. I like that it looked aesthetically pleasing on The Mandalorian, but it is what it is. The issue is that this episode spent far too much time on a side story just to compensate and make these cameos somewhat worthwhile, just for them to go ahead and go to a Mandalore camp and speak to the leader that we know nothing about or care nothing about, just to push the story along. It felt like a filler episode, completely wasting our time just to fill up the amount of minutes and obligations that they have for the show, which is honestly quite unfortunate. Now, I'll be honest with you, the issue that I have with this journey is more so with Bo-Katan. In my personal opinion, from what we've seen so far, Bo-Katan simply isn't that great of a character. She's okay. She's a good fighter. She's helped Din Djarin, and she seems to be on the good side for now. But with the armor, the Mandalorian armor, there seems to be a darker plot below the surface. But Bo-Katan isn't really a great character. She isn't a character that I can get behind, and this episode definitely brought that to the forefront, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't really care about Bo-Katan. I was like, okay, she's here, she's there, sometimes she's here, sometimes she's not. But in this season, she has a much more prominent role than anybody else. You could almost call this the Bo-Katan season because of how much importance she has, considering the story. You know, the Mandalore hasn't done anything, Din Djarin hasn't done anything of significance this entire season, really, if you really think about it. Cast your mind back and think of anything cool or significant or very prominent that Din Djarin did. Not a whole lot. So, Bo-Katan she doesn't necessarily have the charisma. She doesn't have a personality trait that draws me to her. She gives us the vibe a little bit of just a more so entitled noble, but I'll give her respect. She can back it up because she definitely is a competent fighter at that. Defo is. But from what we've been given in the Mandalorian TV show, there's nothing truly impressive about her. And I understand perhaps I should have seen or read up some more content on her, or maybe seen her portrayed in another series to have a better understanding of her. But considering what I've been served on this current plate on the Mandalorian show, I'm far from impressed. And these final 2 episodes of the Mandalorian have a lot to catch up on, because I know that the Mandalorian, in terms of critic ratings and ratings in general by people, was in the high 8s, almost touching the 9 spectrum, showing that this is a very high quality show. This time around, it's not looking so good. They'll be like hitting down on the 7s and 6 sometimes in some of these episodes, because this is truly a weak season. Haven't been impressed, and unfortunately a lot of other content creators and other viewers feel similarly with these sentiments. It's genuinely a disappointing experience, and this is why I even made this video in the first place, because I'm just genuinely shocked. I'm personally not hyped for the next episode of The Mandalorian. I'm quite disappointed, and seeing more Bo-Katan doesn't really rivet or excite me. The point and the reason we even fell in love with the show was the relationship of the Mandalorian and Grogu, and the various journeys and challenges and side quests that the two of them partake in. This season seems to be focusing on retaking Mandalore, but with only 2 episodes left, I ponder and wonder how much can really be achieved in such a short period of time. We'll find out. When the final episode of The Mandalorian comes out, I'll have a discussion, and perhaps my mind will change on this certain subject, but for the time being, I'm simply disappointed with what's happening with The Mandalorian. Those are my thoughts, gents. Take it easy.